here we are, and we've modeled this lovely flag with no textures or anything on it yet. But at this point, we're happy with the model, and we want to go on and texture everything and set up the look dev. But the model's done, or at least this version of the model is done. How do we go about turning this into a USD? So, just to get a good idea, if I show the geo group over here, you can see I got all the pieces that I need. And the next step that I want to do when I set this up is name everything correctly, which I got some bad naming here, and then D is decide what is going to be manipulated and what is not going to be manipulated. Because USD, you can move it as a single item, like its own. You can transform it around as though it's a prop in the scene, or you could even have certain things that are its own thing, and you can mess around with it with its transformations. So with that being said, I'm going to tidy up here a bit and show you like how I go about thinking how to tidy up and what I want to do with it. So I come from CFX, where we do cloth and hair, so a lot of stuff I like to keep separate. But there are other ways that I can also deal with it if it's not separated out. So I'm going to take these two clips, and instead of having two clips, which then I have to deal with if an artist is moving around an asset in layout that might move stuff in the way that I don't like. I want to help out myself, and maybe down in layout help out even more there. So, less things to mess with, the better. So, or less things that can go wrong, the better. So let's just grab these two, and I'm going to hold down Shift and right click, and then just combine them. I'm going to hold Shift Alt D for delete, and now let's rename to clips instead of clips A and B, and I'm just going to return it to the hierarchy. Alright, next I got flags. I got two versions of the flags, sending this down the pipe, so there's options to choose between the two. What I can do a lot of times as a CFX artist, I will just send the one and then wrap the other if the geo basically matches, and then I can get basically the same simulation driven by one on the other, but we can switch between the two. These are things that you can do. So I'm going to have two geometries here and not one, and I'm just going to create a group for them, and in this case I'm just going to name this flags underscore and keep that in capital. It really depends on your pipeline if they want caps or not, but this is how I set mine up, and this is going to be GRP. And then I want to just rename one of the flags to A. There we go, A. Okay, so that's not named properly. And then I have for the rope a high res and low res, so I'm going to group that real quick. And this was a rope underscore GRP, and then I got the pole. So with the pole, I'm looking at it, and the texture artist comes to say, hey, you know what, this should be gold at the top, or the reference shows me that this needs to be gold. So I just want to, instead of separating this out and having an extra piece, I could keep it as one piece. But what I can do, and this is pretty cool, is I can grab those faces there, and let me just focus on it. Alright, let me just remove that line. Alright, and then I'm going to make a component tag on this. So I'm going to go to component tags. I'm going to add a component tag for the pole knob. I'm supposed to rename. Oh. Alright, so now I got a tag there, and I could use that tag to assign a shader later. Alright, so I'm all set up. Everything is now ready to be exported out as a USD. Alright, so let's do that. Let's export this out as a USD. So I'm going to select, wait, before I do that, I'm going to name my top group, of course, which will be flag. Flag poll group and GRP. Alright, everything is now in the correct way. Alright, so everything's matching, everything is in my, everything's ready to go. Alright, so let's do export selection in this case, because I just want this group. I don't want the curve that I used to build a lot of stuff. And I'm going to look at our USD default settings here. So there's several things that you just got to be aware of. I'm going to start off with my materials. By default, it's turned on like this when you first open it. I'm going to turn it off because I don't have any shaders set up, but if you're creating Material X or RenderMan for Maya, you want to have these turned on, otherwise it's not going to export and convert whatever it needs to convert if there's any Maya files. Maya nodes, just make sure that these are ticked on. I'm going to tick this off because I don't have a shader and I just don't want that shader data to be included. If you have a rig, you probably want your blend shapes and the display colors and all of this jazz over here ticked on. I'm going to need most of this default. Output here, there's several things that we can make sure that I'm going to be okay. My default perm I'm going to send to the name that I have, and that's it. And I'll talk about prims in a few minutes when we actually start talking about the USD itself. Alright, so I got this, and I could call the top one whatever I want, but I am going to have I'm going to create an export with the naming for the top prim. So let's do that. I'm going to press export, and then it's going to ask me, so I'm going to go to the folder I want to. In this case, I want to stay in the geo under the props because this is the prop. And I am going to do the following. I'm just going to write flag poll set underscore version 01. So I have a version of that, and I am going to export it out. Bam, we done. Now, the next thing, like with anything that you do, you want to check to make sure that whatever you've done has worked correctly. So I'm going to hide this group real quick. I'm going to hide this curve as well, just so it's not in our way. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Windows, and if the plugin for USD has been installed, it should be down here. And it's going to bring up the USD layer editor. And in here, we just want to choose the second option under the create. Just, create a USD from file, and I'm just going to bring in the file that I've created, that I've exported. And then I'm just going to unpack that, and you can see that it's built the same hierarchy. So you gotta make same hierarchies as the one up here. So you could see that I got all kind of stuff here, and which we'll talk about in the next video or the next part. We are going to look at how to organize and clean up and assign shaders to our basic asset as we got here. See you in the next video.